Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, No Parking for Emergencies. As a firefighter, I am always ready to face any situation that comes my way. But there are times when people's stubbornness becomes a huge obstacle in our way of providing emergency services. One such incident left me in shock and disbelief. It was a busy day, and my team had received a call for a medical emergency at an apartment complex. As we reached the location, we noticed that the designated parking area was full, leaving us with no option but to park the ambulance on the roadside. As we stepped out of the vehicle, an angry resident, a member of the apartment's HOA, came storming out, shouting at us for parking in his spot. We tried to explain that we were there for an emergency, but he was not willing to listen. He kept insisting that we move the vehicle immediately. My team and I knew that every second counted in such situations, and we couldn't waste any time arguing with him. We rushed inside the apartment, where a patient was in critical condition. We started administering the necessary treatment, and just as we were making progress, the resident barged in, demanding that we move the ambulance. The patient's family was already stressed, and this intrusion only made things worse. I asked the resident to leave, but he refused, claiming that he was on the HOA board and had the right to go wherever he wanted. The situation quickly escalated, and soon, the cops had to be called in to control the situation. But the resident was not willing to back down, and he started physically assaulting the officers. The cops had no choice but to tase him to subdue him. The resident had to be taken to the hospital to remove the taser barbs, which was a lengthy process. The incident left me feeling angry and frustrated. It was outrageous that someone could be so selfish that they would prioritize their parking space over someone's life. The resident faced multiple charges, including interfering with the scene of an emergency, assault, and resisting arrest. It's unfortunate that we have to deal with such entitled people who don't understand the gravity of an emergency situation. I hope this incident serves as a reminder to everyone that when it comes to emergencies, every second counts. The next story is titled, Owner of Local Corporation Assaults My Father When Confronted About Illegal Development in Our Neighborhood. Hello Reddit. I don't normally have stories to post here, but I got one from today and I am ready to fight some folks. I am not on mobile, and English is my first language, so I have no excuse if I suck up the formatting. I live in a small neighborhood in the middle of a small city. I'm a 20-year-old college student staying in South Carolina with my family thanks to the pandemic. Across from our house was an undeveloped lot. It was completely empty and had lots of grass with very large, very pretty trees. My grandmother walks her dog in this space. When my family bought the house, we were told that the lot had minor historical significance, unclear on details, and that it was illegal to develop this lot. This was one of the reasons we purchased this house. Last Saturday, a large group of men arrived at the lot fully equipped to log the entire place. We were quite upset but were not hasty considering we did not know the full situation. It was possible that someone had bought the lot and that we had been misinformed about the area. My dad is a biology professor and sometimes takes his students on field trips out there to do different activities. He has been extremely stressed and upset about the whole ordeal. My dad tried to call the police at one point, and they refused to come, saying they couldn't do anything about it. Now, the city council does not operate on Saturday where I live, so we could not complain to them immediately, which is why we phoned the police. After inquiring about it later in the week, we confirmed that it was in fact illegal for them to be developing this area. The city placed a stop work order, and we thought the situation was resolved. Today these guys returned, once again on a Saturday, convenient, to keep removing the trees, despite the stop work order. My dad goes out and finds these signs are on the ground. They were most likely blown down by the recent surge of storms we've been having, since these guys probably wouldn't have left them just laying around. My dad approaches them, shows them the signs, and makes sure they are aware of them. So, they temporarily stop working and start making calls. Eventually, this truck pulls up and this guy hops out. I won't identify anyone unless I have good reason to, but this man is the owner of a fairly large corporation which handles various development projects throughout the state. He is very loud, screaming everywhere, eventually finds my dad. He asks if my dad is the one making trouble and preventing his men from working. My dad explains that the city issued the order, not him. Of course, this guy goes on a cursing rampage and my dad just kinda ignores it and crosses the street. The police claim to not be able to do anything when he called them last time, but my dad decides to try again. My dad gets on the phone with the police department. While my dad is explaining the situation, he is holding one of the signs. This dude comes over and asks if he can see it. My dad refuses and says he already handed the other one to his workers. This guy proceeds to backhand my dad in the neck and try to grab the sign, while he is on the phone with the police. So obviously my dad is screaming that he is being assaulted. Patrol cars start showing up very shortly. However, despite many eyewitness accounts from neighbors and his own workers and, of course, the evidence in the call, the police still refuse to pursue this guy. At this point, my mom is understandably furious. She is very active in many communities throughout the area and has gained many contacts. She proceeds to call the mayor and explains what is happening. Within 30 minutes, there are multiple members of the city council on the scene. At the end of the day, the remaining trees were marked to indicate they cannot be removed, and the area cannot be developed. The remaining 3 trees. The place looks like a ducking war zone. I feel extremely powerless, and my dad has a massive bruise on his neck. I want to go to war, but my better judgment is holding me back. I feel like bringing attention to this on social media would be a useless venture and I don't want my family to be any more of a target. I am really hoping that this is over. The next story is titled, "Because I Really Like Money. I'm a Barber. It's a great gig. In fact, I've never been happier working any job, but it does have a few downsides. The biggest one is vacations and holidays. There are very few barbering jobs that offer paid vacation days, holidays or even sick days. Whenever you are not working, regardless of why, you're not getting paid, because, unless you own the shop, you're a contract employee. A few years ago, I was working with an owner at his shop, which was in a small Texas town. Even though he was the owner, I'll be referring to him as partner from here on out, because that's the way he made me feel. He was a great guy to work with. He and I had gone to barber school together and he's just an all-around good guy and a good friend. But he's also a no-nonsense kind of a guy. We both like to have a good laugh, but he's not putting up with anything he doesn't feel like putting up with. Nobody is going to push him around, customer or not. It was a few days before Thanksgiving, and he was planning on closing the shop Wednesday night and then not reopening until the following Monday. I was personally very happy with this arrangement, as every shop I've ever worked at takes off for Thanksgiving Day but reopens for the Friday and Saturday immediately after. My partner likes his days off, however, especially holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. They're meant to be family time, and he's a big believer in that premise. He totally would have allowed me to work those days if it was something I wanted to do, since he understood that not everybody is like he is and he would never want anyone working with him to lose out on money just because of something he wanted to do. But I was very glad he was closing down those days because I love those holidays too. Super long setup, I know. So, let's get to the actual story here. It's Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving. My partner and I are both working on a customer, when in walks, Eye Patch Guy. You'll never guess why we called him that. Eye Patch Guy had a serious problem, he told us, as he leaned against the pool table in front of our chairs, that the barber in his area, a small town north of us, was going to be closed on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, same as us, and he absolutely had to have a haircut and a shave on Saturday. As it turns out, EPG's barber is also a good friend of ours and also went to the same barber school with us. Which is why his barber sent him down to talk to us in order to check if maybe we could help him. We politely explained to EPG that we were also going to be closed those very same days and, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to help him either. But Eye Patch Guy simply wasn't having none of that. Surely, he tells us, surely one of you could come in and fix me up for the right price. It's at this point that my partner pointed out to him that, besides being closed those days, both of us live 45 minutes from the shop. Coming in isn't exactly easy. Well, I mean, it's not super hard but it's definitely a pain in the ass. He then goes on to ask him, what's the big deal about Saturday? We're going to be open tomorrow, and a haircut and shave on Wednesday would probably look almost as fresh as one done on Saturday, so why does it have to be Saturday? EPG then tells us, I love to go to the casinos in Shreveport, Louisiana. But Before I go, I always like to get a fresh haircut and a shave that same morning. It makes me feel extra fresh and relaxed for when I get there. It's a tradition thing, for a little bit of luck. Plus, it may only be a couple days difference, but when I go, I want to look as clean and bright as a new penny. He actually said that shit. My partner looks over at me to see if perhaps I might be interested in coming in, but I'm already shaking my head. No. I'm sorry, my partner tells him, but we've both been looking forward to spending time with our respective families on those days, and we won't be able to help you. Well, you must not like money then. Eye patch guy angrily shouts at us. Everywhere else I go, barbers have done this for me. I get this kind of thing all the time. Now, this is obviously not true since, as you may remember, his personal barber had already turned him down for the same request. But, out of courtesy, neither of us mentioned that to him, no sense making him angrier than he already is. Instead, my partner switches off his clippers. Now, I should mention, and this is something I learned after many months working with my partner, whenever he switched those clippers off, while he was still in the middle of a cut, some serious shit was about to go down, meaning, he was about to say something pretty badass, or hilarious, or both. You know what, he started. You've talked me into it. For the right price, I'd be glad to get up during my holiday with my family, drive an hour and a half round trip, just so I can give one single person a haircut and a shave, and I'll even go the extra mile to ensure that it's the best haircut and shave you've ever had. Now that's what I like to hear, eye patch guy said, brightening in anticipation. How much we talkin'? $350, shouted my partner, in all sincerity. Eye patch guy just sat there, leaning up against our pool table in stunned silence. Both of us kept waiting to see what he would say, even the 5 or 6 other customers in the shop were eagerly waiting to hear his response. After about 60 arduous seconds in complete silence, EPG finally straightened up and, without so much as a peep, made for the door. Because really like money, my partner shouted at him just as the door started to close behind him. Update. Eye patch guy came into our shop about a year and a half later. There was no way we couldn't recognize him. My partner and I shared a look as he sat down to wait his turn. After about a 30-minute wait, he was next, and I got him. Immediately, before he even sat down, he sheepishly began apologizing to both of us for his previous behavior. Okay, I said, so, why are you here? Turns out, his barber was off on vacation with his family, EPG needed a haircut and a shave and was here to get one at our convenience. All was forgiven, and he got his request. The next story is titled, Say Goodbye to Your Summer Job. I worked at a job that hired extra staff during the summer. These summer workers were needed because we were always really busy in those months. I was a manager, which meant I was one of the people in charge of training and managing the new summer staff. Unfortunately for me, one worker wasn't that interested in his job. He'd been hired on a recommendation from an employee he was friends with, and maybe because of that he had a pretty casual attitude towards work. I don't know if he thought he was untouchable or what, but the guy came in hungover often enough that the rest of the staff noticed. He was a fun-loving guy, but in retrospect this maybe should have been a red flag. One day when we're absolutely slammed with work, I asked him to get change because the till was running low, and he was the first employee without any customers. He flat out refused and got angry, saying that he'd already done it yesterday and wasn't doing it again. We didn't really have time for him to say no because of the long line-ups, and if you've ever worked a job with customers, you'll know that people get angry when the line takes too long. In the summer we got change all the time because of how busy we were. It's something every single employee had done before, including myself before I became a manager. I should also mention that the place he needed to go was less than a minute away, so I wasn't asking him to go halfway across town. I ended up having to wait for another employee to be available and ask them instead. I didn't go myself as I was the only one authorized to process tickets and had to be available to answer the phone and handle customer complaints. Also, work policy said that as a manager I wasn't supposed to leave the premises while on shift in case of emergencies. To this day I don't know why he said no. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he had a problem with me. But he'd never spoken to me that way before, and I guess you could say it opened my eyes to his behavior. I'd ignored the perpetual hangovers because he got along with the rest of the staff, but a lot of the time, he'd seemed reluctant to do more than the bare minimum. Maybe he only saw it as a summer job and figured he'd be gone in a few months, so what did it matter? The petty happened next year when I was involved in hiring. His name was brought up and I flat out vetoed him as a summer employee. I wasn't willing to work with him again and not have him pull his own weight. His previous attitude lost him easy employment with a job he was already familiar with. Hope it was worth it, buddy. The last story is titled, Petty Neighbors Fight Over Public Parking. When I was younger, we lived in a suburban neighborhood on a narrow street with single-family homes. Each home had a driveway and there was additional public parking on the street, leaving only one lane for driving. There was a public parking spot along our hedge that we usually used for our second car. Across from us lived an elderly man, Bob, a former business owner and stereotypical grumpy retiree who micromanaged his son, the new owner of the sound equipment sales business. Bob's driveway was directly across from our hedge. Bob frequently complained that parking our car along our hedge made it difficult for him to exit his driveway. This was bullshit, as you'll see in a second. He started sending dozens of letters reprimanding us, then he called the police and the local authorities to try to get us out of the parking spot. Since we were parked legally, and he could exit his driveway, they couldn't do anything. Soon an unknown car would regularly appear in that spot, whenever my parents left for work. Initially just for a day or two, then a week, then a month at a time. My parents found out Bob had somehow gotten himself a second car just to park it in that spot and keep us out of it. Suddenly leaving his driveway with a car in that space wasn't a problem. So, my parents started retaliating, initially just stealing the spot back whenever possible, then by calling the authorities on any issues with his fence and hedges. His hedge was too messy or too tall for local laws. His hedge was growing around a traffic sign. They even moved a temporary parking ban sign from the construction site 2 doors down to include the parking space just to steal it back. Then a different car appeared and stayed for 4 months. After 4 months, my parents had to cut the hedge to keep it neat and in line with local laws, but the car made cutting the hedge impossible. My parents left a note threatening to cut the hedge with their electric hedge cutting tool anyway, and Bob better move the car if he didn't want it damaged. Bob called the bluff. My parents then discovered that the car belonged to Bob's son's business. Bob had been borrowing company cars to block the parking spot. So, my parents called the son to try to reason with him. The son, however, refused to move the car as well. So, my parents called the tax authorities. Turns out you can't declare tax write-offs for company cars if those cars are being used mostly for private purposes, like a petty neighbor fight of the owner's father. The car disappeared within a week. We cut our hedge and claimed back a parking spot we never owned. I'm not sure who acted more entitled in this story, probably my parents, but I'm pretty sure at some point they just did it for the lulz. Thank you for listening.